And I'm ready. I'm pretty pumped to get into this slate. We've got some things we haven't had where we've got cheap running back options that we haven't had down this low yet. We've got some interesting potential values, some possible weather situations, a lot of stuff to go through. And I'm probably going to play a little. I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to play a little less lineups, a little bit higher buy-in stuff, and smaller field, and try and stick more to my, my 3 or 4 core games and only deviate a little bit from those. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just harness in a little bit more on this stuff. I realize that I've done really well on showdowns because I'll play 10 lineups with, using only 10 different players. And I think I've gotten a little too spread out early on in the NFL season. Unless you're max entering, it can kind of be shaky when you don't have players. You're playing 30 lineups, you don't have anybody above 30%. It's just not the right way to do things. So I'm going to try and harness in on a few things today. Sheets, how are you doing? And then we'll go over to Rody and check in.
Doing good. I've been in Virginia the last 3 days for my son is having his they have their fraternity has this Father's Weekend every year. So I've been doing that. We did some golf, did some brewery stuff. Got a chance to chill with him a little bit, and I holed up in the hotel for one more for this, and then I'm going to be back on the road to head back home.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm before you get into the order of what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to hijack. I want to don't want to whine. It's more like kind of sympathize. Like for those of you, and I've talked about this before, but it's gotten really out of control. All right. For those of you that subscribe to other sites and put a lot of time into like and things like that, you essentially have had touts recommend literally every stack on the slate this week.
Yep.
Every player, every stack, every position, every pivot, and what they do, it's really mean in a way. Like they market them in a certain way. Here's our core, but here are our pivots, and here's our tournament plays, and here's our off the chalk plays, and here's our this plays. And then when whatever happens, they're going to announce that they were geniuses. Okay.
Right.
It'll drive you to the lunatic asylum. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for it. Like how you're supposed to deal with that. Because I don't want to just go and say, well, just like turn it all off. But you have to come up with some kind of content absorption schedule. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you will be nuts. And it's when I write my monthly letter to my stock for my hedge fund, I basically tell people just turn off CNBC. Like the whole time.
Right.
I did lunatic asylum, but obviously it's not so easy in when you're trying to do research at DFS. But just have that in the back of your mind when you're listening to all these content providers. So many people with different it will drive you nuts. And then what will end up happening is towards the end of the week, you'll be biased to a certain team, and all you'll be looking for is the video that supports your take. Right. And that's not good either. So I don't really have an answer for it, but let me say that I do sympathize. And again, my overall look going into this week is I'm not exactly surprised, because there really are a lot of ways you can go this week. So it's not as if people being completely disingenuous, really, but at some point you have to kind of take a stand.
Right.
You could just say, you know what, I'm pumping all the projections, I'm throwing them all into SaberSim and the optimizers, running a contest simulation, and whatever I get, and if I'm a little more in the field, yeah, you could certainly do that. And there's certainly, and you know what, for mental health, there's certainly a little wisdom to that, to just waking up at 12:30 on Sunday, never having looked throughout the whole week, and just fire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that with everybody doing that, and with so many of these things out there, I think it's healthy to take kind of a reasonable stand on or against certain players. Even though that's not exactly optimal, I think that it's healthy, and I think that it's more fun, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, I like the point you're making. It's something we try to touch on all the time. I try to do my best of saying, like, people ask about certain plays and things like that, and we have the back and forth. I really try to say, like, that makes sense, but I'm not playing any of that. You know what I mean? I'll say the guys I'm playing, and I don't, there's a lot of other pivots that I still think it's important to mention, but there is, it is a hard thing to try and figure out how to exactly consume all of this content with that NFL, especially on a week like this week where it does feel more wide open. It's weird. It feels more wide open, but there's also more projected chalk than we've had on any slate. So that's just something to consider. Maybe just being underweight the chalk would be an interesting stance to take if you were max entering or something like that today. All right, Rody, how are you doing, man? And any overall thoughts on the slates before we get into the positions and stacks and all that? Oh, Rody, can't hear you, bud. Something with the microphone. Rody's so good about it too. He always says first thing. He's the first guy on, always saying, "Can you hear me?" And for some today, we didn't quite get it. So here, it looks like we got him now. We got you, Rody. Oh no, still a little.
I actually came on earlier myself and did a sound check just because I knew I was going to be for my laptop in the hotel room.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, we'll get back to you, Rody.
Oh, I'm good. Oh,
here we go.
My things are all out of sync. My camera took a while to get. I couldn't figure that out either. I didn't realize my mic was off sync too. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah. No crazy thoughts today, guys. I like what Bobby and Sheets said, so we're a little behind. So let's just get into it.
We'll jump into it. All right. So I'll jump in and this one I'll go. We'll go me, Sheets, and then Rody to start here, and then we'll mix it up and start going Rody first on some of these because I feel like we take away a lot of Rody's plays sometimes. But I'll just say at quarterback, and this is going to lead into my stacks, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. I'm looking at my exposure, and I'm going to add probably one quarterback to this, but I've got 5 quarterbacks that I'm playing this week only at the moment. I probably will add a 6th, but right now, Stafford, Justin Fields, and Dobbs.
How many lineups you playing for some context?
So I'm playing like only 25 in the $20 millionaire thing, but I'm playing like all of the 3 entry stuff, all the single entry, and then I'm playing 3 of the 555s. And I'm also playing on FanDuel, which we can touch on as well. My quarterbacks, though, I'm most overweight are Stafford, Fields, Dobbs. I don't know. The weather in that game has me a little bit hesitant with the Cousins thing, but it is kind of tempting to make that cheap stack, and I do like that game environment. Just the weather is a little bit off. And then Joe Burrow being the next one for me. But I'm probably going to turn some of the Cousins shares and maybe some of the Dobbs shares into a little bit of Trevor Lawrence. So that will probably be my 6 quarterbacks on DraftKings. On FanDuel, because of Jalen Waddle's price, I've been, I'm going to take these shots when I can and just play the Miami double stack with Waddle and Hill. So I'm finding that I'm getting more Tua on FanDuel because it's more doable than it is on DraftKings. So those are my quarterbacks. How about you, Sheets?
Okay, so with this week, I'll give you another little. I hate to go late because you know what, I have to leave too. But I think this week in particular, it challenges me, like the devil and the whatever the angel in my brain, because like the projections and my Saber sim builds and all my stuff were leading me down a certain road that just didn't feel right for some reason. So, so the first about for whatever reason is Vegas, and Garoppolo and everything that goes with it. Because if you went by my numbers or whatever it is, you'd be hard pressed to keep like these Vegas guys out of your lineups. Like it's just like because of the target shares, because of all this stuff, and you're just getting to all them. But then like in the back of my head, I'm like you're against New England, and when have I ever won a slate playing against New England's defense? When have I ever play? You know what I mean? So I'm getting all this Garoppolo, and I'm like, I just don't know if I want to do that. So I legitimately just manually like reduced all of it. Okay. Now with that said, between you and me, Bobby, someone's got to win, and I don't have as much of those guys as you do. Like I'm getting, I think some staff or whatever. But just again, pure transparency. My top owned quarterback and it goes with my top owned stack. I guess I have to put it this way, like as well, is actually going to be Sam Howell in Washington. That's just where I ended up. I just thought it was the best combination of being low owned and having a shot. And it also didn't feel so right because I always also talk about every week how Atlanta is a place where fantasy points seem to go to die. But that's just, in the name of transparency, that's where I am. The projections are good enough that I'll live with it, and that's just kind of where I am.
That's interesting. I like that you come up with those interesting ones. That's not even like there's a lot of cheap quarterbacks, and that's really not one that I even considered. And I think you're going to get really low ownership on him, and it's really pairable with his receivers. So I see where it works. You know what I mean? And you can spend up in other spots, and I I think it's kind of interesting to go that route. I didn't get to the Vegas thing as much, but I do have a note to myself to make sure to get some Devontae Adams and a little bit of Josh Jacobs, as well as potentially some Ramondre Stevenson, who's probably going to be traded soon. And I think they would like to I think before they trade him, they'd like to see him have somebody would like to see him have one good game. And maybe this is the day to do it against the Raiders defense. What do you got here, Rody, for quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, that's some hot takes for you guys. I like. I made a pick, and during our pick show, I made a quarterback that I kind of like the game of. I like a little Geno Smith is kind of the lone guy that I got at 5'7". I kind of like him today. I kind of like that game a little bit more. Matt Stafford's another guy I got. I do got some Jimmy Garoppolo, too, as a cheap quarterback. I kind of like that as well. So I'm kind of staying in that kind of range, going with the cheap quarterback. Yeah, I'll have a Tua here and there. I got a couple Lawrence stacks. I don't have any Burrow yet. I don't have any Fields like Bobby does. So I'm kind of staying a few lineups this week, not as many as I normally play. I haven't built my main one yet, but it's probably going to be some sort of those cheaper guys combination.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add that the one thing that none of us kind of like keen on too much, although Rody for just a second, is what I like to call the I'm kind of stealing this from an MMA podcast, honestly, but it's kind of like the hipster play of the week. Mm-hmm. Is just, it seems as though all the geniuses are just pounding on Jacksonville, Indianapolis, makes and Minshew specifically, makes sense, I guess. I'm just, for the lack of a better reason, I'm just not getting there. I'm just not playing them.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I didn't get there either, but I actually have no issue with anyone who does. Again, it's one of those things. It's just I didn't get there, and I personally think Jacksonville has a really good defense. I love Jacksonville to cover in that game. Separate note, I think 3.5 is way too little for them here, and they did have 2 weeks in London, so maybe they're factoring that in. But I definitely I can see the argument for the Colts thing because Downs looks like such a good play, and then you have the cheap stack with Minshew. You can kind of do what you want, play Etienne on the other side. So I get why they're doing it, but I personally didn't go that route. I like Rody's call quite a bit on Geno Smith. I think that's a really, really sharp approach because I think that you can double pair him with his receivers, or you could play Smith and Jigba, who they're trying to get more involved with one of either Metcalf or Lockett really cheap and run it back with Chase and Mixon or something like that and get different inside of a game that's already going to have some ownership, but it's mostly going to be on the Bengals side. So I like that call quite a bit from Rody. For running backs, why don't we have Rody? Why don't you start this one off and talk about who you're a little bit high on this week?
Oh, running back! You guys give me the hard position. I like,
dude. That. I don't know. Okay, I'll give you.
No. That's fine. That's fine. It's just because this running back is nuts today. There's a lot of cheap ones. You got the Chubb and the Dante Foreman playing for guys that are hurt. So we had some injury news yesterday earlier this or middle of this week, and we got some really cheap guys. As a bottom. But you guys don't like the Las Vegas game as much. But Josh Jacobs projects like one of the top guys on the slate. Obviously, his ownership's only about 13%. I'm seeing, but he's just getting a lot of usage. He's getting passes, he's getting runs, he's just doing everything for that team at the running back position. David Montgomery's similar. No Gibbs. He's a really good play today against Tampa. He's getting all the work as well. I've been high on Kamara, Mostert, Kyren Williams, all these guys. I have actually a tight pool. I'm sticking with all these good running backs and just mixing and matching them in different lineups. Kenneth Walker was my DFS picks play show because I like that game with Geno. I kind of like the passing and the running. I just kind of on the Seattle side more in that game today, but obviously we'll have run backs and correlation. But yeah, so I'm sticking with these top running backs that I kind of like today. And I am starting to get a little bit more CMC too. I mean, guys scored 14 straight touchdowns, or I don't even know how many at this point. He scores every week. But he's priced up a lot. So a lot of people are off him a little bit. So I'm trying to use some of the cheaper stack pieces and then grabbing him for the late game. I know it's not a good total. I know it's not a good game environment, but I like it. I think getting a little bit of him isn't going to be bad for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I personally am on the Montgomery full fade today. Tampa Bay, I know they finally got beaten up on the ground recently for the first time in what feels like 4 years. Montgomery makes plenty of sense on paper. I actually thought he was going to be a little chalkier than he is, but I prefer the players in this price range. But that's the only real difference I had, I think, than you there. Sheets, what do you got at running back?
Yeah, I think that we have to like go back to the beginning here. So I've heard this take. You know, the McCaffrey there, he's gonna be low owned because 9,500 does whatever. I think that you're listen. I don't know if I'm actually going to do this. I think you're supposed to just go back to basics here. I mean, this is a receiver based league with like all this upside of all these guys like Tyreek Hill and all these guys, and you're getting Chuba Hubbard in a perfect game script at whatever 4,300. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to just lock him. I don't know if I have it in me to do that over a billion lineups, but I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to do. And then the second question, the 2A, the 1A is what you do with Deontay Foreman. Okay. Cause I think those are the two, cheap running backs that I think you really have to have one of access these Jamar Chases and Devontae Adamses and Tyreek Hills and all of these guys. And it's not my style usually to do that. And probably because I'm away and I don't really have enough the patience for it, I'm probably not going to do it. And I'll just be over on Hubbard and, being over Hubbard means you got to be probably over 50.
Right.
He's already been doing well, and he's got a game script in his favor. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't get there if you want to know the truth. And so that's like tier one, right? Of the cheap ones. And then the next main question is what to do with Mostert, because that game is gonna, there's be billion plays. Achane is out, and they could end up running the ball a lot, towards the end. So I think those three guys just kind of drive, the chalk, if you want to know the truth, and then it really comes down to how much of those you want to play, and then just pick your pivot. I like your idea, Bobby, about fading Montgomery. Even just picking one of these guys and just freaking Xing them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether it's him or Mixon, you know what I mean? Like those guys, they look good. They look good enough, but just take a stand on something in somewhere, So just so you know what I have. I am over on those plays. Just the Mostert and the Hubbard. Kyren Williams, obviously, that's like one of these 6,500 guys that all look very similar to me. Josh Jacobs, Montgomery, you could X out if you felt like it, like Kamara, Bijan Robinson. I don't really think it matters in a way which one of these guys. I would not spread out all these guys. I would, and I'll throw it Kenneth Walker in as well. Just you take that whole pool of them and pick your favorite, 2 or 3. And just use that, and just don't use the others. I think that's probably what you're supposed to do. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I think that's probably the best idea. Is to lock in Hubbard and just try and take a stand on one of these running backs and just spread.
Yeah,
that's.
So it's interesting because speaking to that, that naturally in building, that's almost exactly what I did. In all my builds, so I've got right now I have 55% Chuba Hubbard. I'm not sure that I'm going to change that much. The one thing that I want to point out, though, is you have the Deontay Foreman situation. You also have the Arizona running back situation, which is definitely a gamble because Tony Jones is back. He was out, but DeMarcado looked good last week. And then on top of it, you've also got the potential of Ingram. I think I would gamble with the DeMarcado as a pivot off of Hubbard or play them together and get the two super spend downs. I'm really bummed that Jeff Wilson isn't active today because I know that without Achane, my plan, I told Rody this on our show, I was going to go Jeff Wilson as the contrarian play instead of Mostert because he's another one of these speed guys. And if the game gets out of hand, you might see him with the monster game. They actually ran some plays for him near the goal line in the last game as well. So he's out, which makes Mostert even feel more of a play. So I'm probably going to be a little bit underweight on. Well, right now I've got Chuba as my number 1. I've got Kyren Williams my number 2, and then a guy Rody mentioned on our show. I got way heavier on Kenneth Walker and sort of got lower on Mixon just due to ownership. And then I'm deep on the high end. I'm playing. I don't want to play Montgomery, so I'm going to play Bijan Robinson and Etienne. And then because of game stacks, I'm going to have Madison in my lineup. So those are my main guys, with sprinklings of Stevenson, Breece Hall, and Joe Mixon, but they're really more stack related if I'm going to play the Stevenson and Mixon guys than they are the other way around. So I'm probably going to be over 40% on Williams, over 50% on Hubbard, probably in the 30s for Robinson, Etienne, and Walker. So that's
What do you Rody, what do you think of Mostert? I mean, is he like someone you would play in like your big buy and stuff?
Yeah, he's the chalk guy. He's like 25-30% almost.
Yeah.
I'm seeing 25 mostly. I have him in lineups just because, you know, I like him, but I'm trying to get to more of the receivers. Like I like the Chuba pair, like you mentioned Chuba, and then run it back with like a Hill Waddle type thing. I'm trying to get a little bit less Mostert. I'll be under on Mostert probably.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, I love Mostert today. I just probably end up under as well.
I have him in my dynasty league. I got to trade for him. I'm liking him there, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play less of him today.
Yeah, well, it won't surprise any of us one bit if he scores 35 fantasy points. It's just a matter of
it won't surprise us.
Can Kenneth Walker score 36 and Travis Etienne score 37? Maybe, I don't know, something like that, I guess. Also, you never know. The passing game could rule the day. And remember, one thing about Carolina, they have to play more snaps on defense because their offense doesn't move the ball much. But if they do actually find any success against the Miami defense that's been weak, you might see a little. I mean, you might see that defense look a little better than they have. So maybe a little bit of an argument, for why we could fade Mostert. I'm certainly looking for one. All right, let's talk about wide receivers, Sheets. Why don't you start us off with who you like, who you're heaviest on?
Right. Devontae Adams is showing up as just a really, really good play. Between him and Myers, I mean, two of them really. I mean, they just have all of the receiving work. The Raiders. So I do like both of them actually. But my highest owned two guys are just the guys. They're Chase and Hill. Those are my two top owned receivers. And then Josh Adams is only to stack out a little bit, so it reduced his ownership a little bit. So for me, it's Hill, Chase, and then Terry McLaurin, just because of those the Washington stack.
Yeah.
And then and right back to Nico Collins from Houston, I suppose. I don't know what I want to do with. I think the Adam Thielen play is going to be, the play that people make. Makes sense, I suppose. I mean, he gets 35 targets a game, and it's a
good game.
Good game. He plays in this game. Maybe. I'm probably just with the field on him. So for me, it's Chase, Hill, McLaurin by virtue of the stacks. Nico Collins is the next. And one guy I'll throw in just because I have more of him than I thought I did. The playing guys in 2017 angle, I have like 17% Michael Thomas.
Oh yeah, I've got some Michael Thomas as well. All right. Okay. How about you, Rody? What'd you get into at wide receiver?
Yeah, I like that Michael Thomas call. That's a good one. We've been talking about him for a while, but he's getting good yards. He's just got to get in the end zone. I like the Chase and Hill. Obviously, I like with my Stafford stacks. I like a little bit of Nakua and Cooper Kupp because Nakua does well against the zone. Arizona runs a lot of zone, so I small sample size with him. So I like that stack in that game. So I'm going to have them. Jalen Waddle, another one you can kind of pivot off of Hill if you like that. I think he's might get healthy. He should be back at it again. DK and Lockett, two guys in the Geno stack that I'm kind of on. Maybe Josh Downs, a guy that Bobby mentioned right off the rip. Yeah, 40. His price is up a little bit, 4,100. But if you're playing that, I know they don't like the Jacksonville game, but if you're running a Jacksonville stack, you got Downs there, Pittman. Kind of like Downs, a cheap guy, just to sprinkle in. I like Kirk to sprinkle in out of that game. I have no game stacks. Well, I have a couple of Lawrence, but no Minshew. Just a couple mini stacks of that, and then Marquise Brown, run back in that Ram stack, and then that's pretty much my guys. I'm staying. I do like Jacoby Myers. I am 5'8" for his. I think it's a price thing, so I really like him in that game. I like him more than Adams. So
I've got two others just to throw it. Just I one to caution about and one to. Just because I'm seeing these couple of questionable tags or whatever. In addition to Nico Collins, again, Robert Woods, it's not somebody you like to play, but, with Tank Dell out more usage. And if you and I hear T. Higgins is probably going to play. Just I just want to remind people that I think there were several games where T. Higgins was, I'm not sure whether he was going to play, and they had him play, and he played like 2 snaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just be careful. Like if you're building just like computer-based Bengal stacks, and you get like double stacks with Higgins, just be careful of that. It's not, even though he's going to play, it's not guaranteed he does anything. He might have 10 snaps, you know what I mean? Or he might like hurt himself and be out of the game like really, really quickly. So that was pretty much that.
Yeah, I want to actually take a tiny bit of a counter on that, just because I think it's an important thing to touch on.
Sure.
I do think it's possible. I also think T. Higgins is one of the best tournament plays on the slate. They found their offense last week finally, and it was without Higgins. It hasn't been Higgins' fault. It was more just that Burrow could look like he couldn't move on his ankle. If he's back and good to go, I really think T. Higgins is like one of the sneakiest top plays, and I think that he actually matches up really well with the Seattle team if he's good. Like again, and we don't know. So I'm gonna
for Millie Maker, beautiful.
I'm gonna play in my Burrow stacks. I'm gonna have some of the Higgins, Chase, and Boyd. I've done these triple stacks with Cincinnati before, and I think that that's an interesting way to go. And just I don't expect anyone to be on that triple today. So I'm gonna talk about a couple of. So I've got my plays. But then I've also got a few that are guys who I think you should take chances on in the Millionaire Maker. One of them was T. Higgins, actually. My highest owned receiver right now is Marquise Brown. Say what you will about it. I understand there's going to be some ownership. I'm just most heaviest involved in that game. So I don't know, it's just hard for me to get off of them. I understand that people think that it can be overreactive to react to what DJ Moore was doing. I'm going to take the opposite approach. I think DJ Moore is a tremendous play today. Sub 5% ownership on a guy who's had the best fantasy game of anybody this season, who's really developed a rapport with Fields over the last couple of weeks, who's been the number one receiver over the last couple of weeks. He's still only 6,500. Why is he low owned? I just can't. I understand the weather or say whatever. In my opinion, that just means more of him and Kmet. I really think DJ Moore is a tremendous play. Then you get into the Rams guys for me in terms of ownership. Cup, obviously, I have significantly more than Nakua, but I will not X out Nakua. I will play some Nakua as well. Christian Kirk. I'm going to lower my Tyler Boyd because I initially had him because because of the Higgins thing, although I'll still keep like probably 10 to 15% of them. Then you get into I still like people are afraid of the weather. I think a little too much. Addison is the one that I first was getting to, and now I'm sort of out of the KJ Osborne with his target share, especially if you can, I just like that game stack. So I'm, all of the plays I've mentioned so far are pretty much within my game stacks with the not even with the exception of anything. It's like Tyler Boyd. I love Downs. Tyreek Hill is my favorite spend up shocker there. On FanDuel, I don't think I'll have one lineup without Jalen Waddle today. I think they want to get him going, and he's 6,800. So basically, he's like the 30th priced receiver on FanDuel, and he's like the 7th priced receiver, 8th priced receiver on DraftKings. I think it's a really good time to take a shot on Jalen Waddle and the two stacks on FanDuel especially. So those are my main ones. Sprinkling in the Metcalf. I'm going to get some Metcalf and why can't I think of his name? Tyler Lockett. And I'm going to probably put a Geno stack together with those two, or at least one of those guys, and Smith and Jigba. Those are the ones who I thought were interesting. So there's the very cheap guys that I just think we should have a really quick conversation about. Smith and Jigba is just sort of my belief that this guy is going to start getting more and more work. Whether it's today or not, I don't know, but I do believe we're going to start seeing that trend in the right direction. Brandon Powell, the other receiver from Minnesota, 3K projections kind of like him, but he's not going to get played because of the way people are going to build. What's his name? Mingo for Carolina when everyone's going to play. What's his name? Thielen. I think Mingo makes for an interesting 3,500 run back. So those are my get weird large field. Smith and Jigba, Powell, Mingo, I think are all very interesting. And I have a note because you guys have both mentioned it a lot, and I've also been trying to talk myself out of it. But now I'm going to probably get a little bit of it is the Raiders, just the whole Raiders situation. But both Myers, one of Myers or Adams, and I'm probably going to get to some Jacobs as well, just because I don't want to ignore that spot. And honestly, I don't know if we should be giving New England any credit for the defense they used to have. They really aren't very good anymore. All right, tight ends. I guess, I'll start off tight end just because I haven't started off keep it going in that direction. For me, tight ends are right now. I only have 5 tight ends that I'm playing. I don't like tight ends that much this week, but I do like a little bit of the Hawkinson and Kmet together. I have a little bit of that with my fields. I think that both Hawkinson and Kmet, people in these weather games, if you're going to buy into even the weather narrative being an issue, they're going to find the tight ends a little more often. You're going to have those, short underneath routes. You could see a big target game for Hawkinson. I think he's going to have obviously some ownership. And I think that you're going to, I don't think anyone's going to play Cole Kmet, and I don't think anyone's playing Cole Kmet with Hawkinson. So I kind of like the idea of doing that. And I also like, I have more Zach Ertz than I want. I wouldn't play Zach Ertz except for that he's in the game that I want to stack. I like Higbee better for what it's worth. And the last one for me is Evan Ingram. So I'm playing 5 tight ends. The only ones that are really not chalky would be Kmet, and I don't think Higbee's going to get too much ownership. But I don't love the position today. So that's where I'm at with tight end. Rody, what do you think? And then we'll go to Sheets.
Yeah, I mean, tight end's a rough one this week. I agree with you. You said a lot of good things on tight end as well. I'm seeing a little bit of Kyle Pitts too, here at tight end for like more of an optimal play, and Ingram too at 4,500. These guys are the little bit more chalky guys. Zach Ertz is up there a little bit too. I like to go back to a little Dallas Goedert today a little bit. 4,800 still a good price. No corners. The couple Jets defenders are out in the secondary, so could open some things up back there. TJ Hawkinson was a good call, and he's kind of looking at a little lower owned too and projects the best. So he's just priced up a little bit. I think why people are going with the cheaper tight ends. So I like him as well. I like Sam Laporta a little bit. I'm pretty tight on tight end. Like these guys I'm literally loading up on and just kind of sprinkling in. Tyler Higbee, another guy that Bobby said I kind of like him because I like that game. And really maybe a little Noah fan. I always stick to him a little bit just because I felt like he's got big breakout potential someday, but he just never does anything. But he's
I'm so with you on that one, by the way. What a frustrating play.
Yeah.
It feels like it should work every week, and then the one week like nobody plays him, he has a monster game. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so like you got to, I'm gonna stick a little 3K. I might have a sprinkle a little bit of George Kittle in there at the 5K range at lower ownership. I think someone's gonna score touchdowns in that game with their total, so so just a little bit of that, and then I'm pretty much it. I'm just loading up on those guys, and then staying pretty much in that same tight end, swapping those guys in and out.
Yep. How about you, Sheets?
Yeah, I think that you should if you like that Rams game, I think you should play Ertz. I'm getting Ertz anyway as like one of my top owned tight ends. Schultz, I don't know if anybody mentioned him, but he's in there. But the guy, again, I'll just reiterate, just because I don't even know if you guys mentioned him, but again, because of part of what I'm doing is Logan Thomas for Washington. And I pretty much second now again, if you want to pivot off of like Kyle Pitts is starting to get like whatever, you could just like play Jonnu Smith, the other tight end for Atlanta, and that would be pretty trolling. You could probably get away with it. So I like that. You can play Hunter Henry if you're going to play those Raiders. You could play Hunter Henry as kind of run back over there if you felt like it, but nothing more than what you guys said, honestly.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm gonna, we're actually, I was gonna write these answers into my thoughts.
I'll start with the defense this time.
Okay, well, we'll work with. Let's just, I thought we'd fire in just answer a few quick things. Because K9 asked the favorite FanDuel quarterbacks. For me, they're similar to the DraftKings and the Stafford and all that, which sucks because it's a running site. So I think you try to get to Justin Fields or you try to get someone with some rushing upside. But I also think that because of the price of Jalen Waddle, it's forced me into Tua being my favorite FanDuel quarterback today. I also wanted some exposure to Tua, and I wasn't getting any on DraftKings. So that's my answer. Sheets, do you have a favorite on FanDuel that quarterback?
2 guys that were particularly cheap that on FanDuel. One you just mentioned. I mean, I'm getting more Miami over there because of the Waddle's price. And the other thing about again, just kind of Godwin's really cheap over there. If you feel like doing that. Aside from that, it's pretty much the same difference. Oh, that's not true because I really am not playing. What's his name over there? The Washington people. I'm just more kind of normal, like Miami Raiders, stuff like that.
Right. Rody, anything on FanDuel that you're playing today?
No, I like your Tua idea. Yeah, so nothing different. So for me.
Okay. And then real quick, just to answer before we go to the sheets, will start with defense after this, but we'll go PNP, who just subbed. Hey man, great to have you. Glad you did. He threw his lineup in the chat, and it's pretty chalky. But I like it. Now that you switched over to downs, that makes sense. You don't want to ever play a naked Minshew, in my opinion. That would be my advice. Don't ever play a naked 5K quarterback with almost no rushing upside. So that would be just against a really good defense. So it's not what I'm doing, but I have no issue with your lineup. It does look a little chalky for me. That's what I see in this. And if anybody wants to weigh in, anything, Rody?
Yeah, I mean, it looks a little chalky. Maybe Osborne's not as chalky, but if he adds down, I think he swapped around Downs probably in that Osborne spot.
Downs and
so that makes it a little more chalky. But yeah, I mean, it's chalky. Defense isn't chalky.
Yeah, the defense definitely isn't chalky. That's for sure. All right, so we'll start us off here with defenses here.
Yeah, so as usual, normally I'd like to reduce whoever my top owned defense is to less than 20% or less, just as the way kind of variance works. And usually every week there is a team that kind of challenges that, because there's a team that I get to like 30% of, and then I am going to reduce it, but it's still worth me mentioning who that is. And it's just the stream every week, where we're going to stream against Cousins every week. So this is the team that I have to force myself out of. But that means they're still going to be my top owned. They're still going to be my top owned defense. And then after that, like other kind of like weird cheapos, like Tampa, back to the Cardinals, stuff like I have them. They're not actually that bad, but that my top one, I guess, would be the Bears, and then I always play a little bit of the Cardinals, and I guess the Bucks would be the next highest owned.
Interesting. Rody, what do you got?
Yeah, it's pretty spread out on defenses. I don't see any super chalky ones. I mean, the 49ers and Vikings are a little high, but they're the pricier ones. You know how we like to go lower cost defenses. I like the Lions a lot today at 2,700. They're probably next on the chalk list of number 3 there. And then you got Bears at 2,500. It's okay. I remember another one that I want. Yeah, Cardinals at 2,400 isn't terrible like that. Bucks at 2,300. So a couple of those lower cheap defenses that we normally like to play. But I'm pretty heavy probably in the Lions range there. I think that's what I got mostly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Lions are by far and away my favorite defense. I don't think it's even close. I actually think this could be like a really ugly situation, for Baker. You have that kind of a pass rush that the Lions have, and Baker, just like Cousins, when you get that pass rush, and they've done a good job protecting him, to their credit, but I don't know if they can stop that front line. So I'm going to be way overweight both those defenses. Will be my top 2. Will be the Lions and then the Bears. And then I love the Browns against San Francisco today. I think the Browns, look, here's my bold call of the day, I guess. That maybe not my boldest call because it's not a fantasy red. I think the Browns are going to beat San Francisco today without their quarterback as the big.
Well, then go play PJ Walker at 4K.
Well, I think that their defense is going to beat them. I don't think that it's going to be. I swear, I see a defensive touchdown. I see some field goals. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. It's really bad weather, and I think this is the one that maybe that's the upset of the day. I'm actually going to put it in a parlay with that one, and then I'm going to have the Lions. I'm going to move the line up to 6.5 for the Lions game and have the Lions to beat them. And I think I'm going to get probably somewhere around 20-1 for that. So for that parlay. So I'm going to try and take that shot. All right. So we talked about, we sort of have hinted on our stacks, but I guess I'll go through my stacks really quick. Obviously the Arizona Rams game I'm very high on. I like the Minnesota-Chicago game, even though the weather does concern me, but I can still play Fields in a skinny stack with Moore or Kmet and run it back with Madison on the other side, who's going to be overlooked and is cheap. I like the Seattle-Cincinnati game would be my third favorite. And then just the other one's getting a little too popular for me, like the Lawrence thing. But so I'm mostly going to focus on those games, but I like both sides of pretty much all of those. The one thing the stack that I'm most comfortable with, taking just a shot on without any run backs. If I did, well, you have Chuba as the run back, but not making it, not stacking the Panthers at all. But I will force in some, Miami pours it on stacks. That's basically it. How about you, Sheets? And then we'll go to Rody to close it out and take us out.
What stacks?
Yeah.
Oh,
you mentioned the Washington one.
Washington, whatever. But I'm gonna throw one other thing, but I've been kind of holding back a little bit. So I have 2 plays that I'm gonna have less than 5% of. That's gonna put me probably 100% more than 100 times more than the field. Anyway, to win the $1 billion, we probably need a tournament that has more entries than the Millie Maker to really make this one work. But I'm gonna give it to you anyway. But before I get to that one, I'll reiterate a play that I think that I don't know if Bobby brought it up, but if you're gonna play that Rams game, you got to go back to the once and future leader of the free world, that Michael Wilson guy.
Yeah, I think you're right about that
for Arizona, just in case. But this is kind of like the pivot off the pivot play. So the Miami is playing. They're a 1 billion point favorite against Carolina. And one of the reasons people might be a little nervous about Mostert is not nervous is that, without a chain, whatever, there's going to be other running backs that kind of come in and take some of the work. So I've heard, that the Ahmed is going to be, Savannah Ahmed is the play to go ahead and, maybe even pivot off the 4,300s. So yeah, that's fine. But how about we play Chris Brooks to take the Savad Ahmed role, and during the blowout run, he'll break the ones for the 50 yards and the 60 yards at a flat 4K to score 15 points and win the slate. So that would be, and as I say this, people are literally scrolling through the DraftKings slate to see what that is.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be the 5% guy that's going to have literally 4 lineups, people owning it. So that'll be my that's going to be my have too many edibles play of the week.
Oh man, the too many edibles play is a great call, and I love that. But yeah. I'm really pissed off because I really wanted Jeff Wilson. Was me and Rody were talking, I was like, he was my favorite contrarian play, Jeff Wilson.
Yeah,
on your show. And now he's out, so I didn't want to switch over to Ahmed.
And I'm pretty sure Chris Brooks has literally 0 projection in my work, and I don't know if anybody has him projected for an eighth of a point. So
no, he's projected for 2.5
for that game, and just captain Chris Brooks.
Yeah, just global swap Hubbard for Chris Brooks. How about that?
There you go. All right, Brody. Stacks, and then take us out of here.
So yeah, you guys are good. No final thoughts. The stacks. Okay.
I'll throw in the hot take of the day.
Yeah, we can't forget Bobby's favorite thing. Hot take.
I already threw in a pretty big one as far as betting wise with Cleveland over San Francisco.
That's big, yeah.
So that's my crazy one, but my less crazy one is that I don't know. You know what? It's actually a little bit harder for me today, but I think I'm going to say that DJ Moore, just because he's so low owned, I'm just it seems like such an obvious thing to play him, and no one's going to play him. I'll say DJ Moore is on the winning millionaire lineup, so stick with that one.
Dude, that's the stack. The I'm doing the Tua, Hill, Chris Brooks stack.
There it is. There's the bold ones. Bold calls. Now you get to say your stacks and take us out.
What's his name? Where's the guy, the reporter from LA that always wants the exact plays?
What's his name? Pingeler.
Yeah, where's he?
I don't know. He must be working or something on Sunday morning.
Something like
must
that.
Be working.
All right, so we're going to take us stacks and then take us out.
All right, guys. Yeah, you guys kind of know my games I'm on. I like the Rams, the Arizona game, and the Cincy game, more Seattle side. Rams, Arizona. You got kind of go. I've played both sides of it actually. I like both sides of that. Those are my main stacks today. A little bit of Raiders, and pretty much it. It's a really tough week at running back too. Kind of mixing, matching some of these guys. Maybe this is the week the chalk guy really busts hard, or something happens to him. Like the 30% owned, 40% owned guy go something happens, and that Chris Brooks is in the winner.
Oh, the winner.
So I like what the Sheets is saying, and let's just get out of here, guys. Good luck, and as always, let's get it.